Hey, Alberta. Separatist wackos.
So I think that the Prime Minister has a window here in the next 6 months.
Did Jann Arden go too far? And are you nervous with what the Premier just said? Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unfiltered, where we ask the real questions, show the receipts, and speak directly to Canadians who are done with the political theater. This conversation isn't just about a celebrity going off this weekend on social media. It's about something deeper, boiling underneath in Alberta and in this country. And I've got to say, I'm a little nervous about what the Premier did say about the new federal government, but we're going to get to that a little bit later on. So if you're tired of the media spin, tired of being told how to feel, and if you love the West and Alberta and you care about fairness, then you're in the right place with Unfiltered. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss what's coming up. Now, we've got a lot to unpack today. I'm not going to play the whole Jann Arden video again. You've probably seen it somewhere on social media, but here's the core of what she said. Hey, Alberta, you bunch of separatist wackos, you're an embarrassment to this country. You guys have your head so far up, you can't see what kind of pricks you really are. The more concerning part is that came from Jann Arden, one of Canada's most well-known singer-songwriters, a Calgarian, and from her roots, an Albertan. She also goes on to say, the way that you're treating the Indigenous people, your fellow Canadians, you're a bunch of creepy little blanks. Look, the language and the name calling in this video is a bit disgusting, actually, especially coming from a celebrity with influence. This was not political commentary. It was a full-blown torch job. And whether you think she was right or wrong, it definitely made waves this weekend. Now, I got to credit the clip on my social platforms. It comes from Beautiful Canada 1 on X. When I responded to her rant on both TikTok and YouTube, I did not expect this. Over 40,000 views across 2 videos and another 2,000 on YouTube Shorts. More than 500 comments. And it was almost a 50-50 split. Some said Jann is right. She said what needed to be said. And on the flip side, others said she burned her fan base and insulted a whole province. And that divide, that's exactly why this conversation matters. One creator on TikTok nailed it. Maybe for once, the East doesn't get to decide. Look, I've heard the same. Some Easterners say they wish they could separate. Others say they love Canada too much and that the West should just sit down and, well, frankly, shut up. Look, we need to say this clearly. This is Alberta's conversation, not Ottawa's, not Toronto's, Alberta's. Subscribe if you agree that our voice matters, that the West voice matters. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single video going forward in this conversation. Now, let me be direct. Jann Arden doesn't pump gas. She doesn't haul pipe. She doesn't live in the uncertainty most Albertans face right now. A patriarch of country music, the Miss Dolly Parton, said it the best. I've learned a long time ago to keep my damn mouth shut when it comes to politics. Dolly Parton said that. And maybe more celebrities should, because working people don't have the luxury of torching half the country and then hiding behind a PR team. Okay, let's talk separation. Everyone is panicking like it's going to happen tomorrow, but even if there was support, it's a massive mountain to climb. Flashback to 95 in Quebec. They came within 1% of leaving. It took years, and in the end, they stayed. Because separation is messy, complicated, expensive, and could divide more than just borders. But let's not pretend it's impossible either. Because if Ottawa ignores a lot more, people are going to start asking tougher questions. Now, I know that there are boots on the ground right now in Alberta doing the work, collecting the signatures, talking to grassroots. And just because these Albertans are doing something that possibly you disagree with, they still have the right, and they shouldn't be demonized for it. They're Albertans who are done, Western Canadians who are done being fairly untreated by the federal government and the overreach from Ottawa that continues to happen. Look, the Alberta government has put in place a way for Albertans to put forward a citizen-led referendum. Now, we're going to get to what Premier Smith says about that and separation in just a minute. But there is a path, and it wasn't created just for separation. The Alberta government wanted to give the people of Alberta an easier path to have their voices heard on topics that matter to them, not just separation. And the sooner the rest of Canada realizes that, then potentially the sooner the heat can be turned down on this issue. I want to say it again. The Premier of Alberta did not decrease the number of signatures that are needed for a referendum in Alberta in support of separation. And clearly, that's why I'm a little nervous about what the Premier said about the new federal government, that 6 months line. And we're going to get back to that in just a second. I'm glad you're still with us. And if you are, hit that subscribe button. We're about halfway through today's episode. And here's what Premier Danielle Smith said in a recent Power Play interview on CTV. On our first clip, it's about the two main issues Alberta needs to see resolved.
I think we've got two issues in Alberta. One is, of course, working with our fellow premiers and the Prime Minister on trying to get a renegotiated Canada-US Free Trade Agreement. But the other is that we need to have a new deal with Ottawa as well. When I talk to Albertans, when you think about how fearful Canadians are of the impact that Donald Trump will have on the economy, that's how fearful Albertans are that an approach that the Liberals have taken for the last 10 years will continue.
The Premier also acknowledges the referendum threshold has changed. Now just 177,000 signatures in 120 days. That is a massive shift.
I would say there's a lot there. I would say that we were in the process of modifying all of our elections laws because we had heard that the thresholds for both recall and citizen initiative were too high, and so they were unrealistic. So that was a process that was taking place independently. It may well be that this is an issue around autonomy is the first one that garners enough signatures to be put to the people.
Here's the Premier reinforcing what her job is with regards to Ottawa. She also references a poll. 30 to 40% of Albertans are done with the federal government. Many of them, well, it's her own base.
Quebecois is polling highest of the provincial parties, and we also see that the Bloc won a significant number of seats. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see us identify the issues that matter to people. Let's not demonize people. Let's acknowledge that the feelings that they have a root, and the root is in the way Alberta has been treated for the last 10 years by the Liberals. So that's genuine, and I'm being very direct with the Prime Minister and saying if we can solve some of these things, I think that will bring the temperature down, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Then she says this.
My job is to make sure that the temperature is brought down so much that there isn't even a need for a citizen-initiated referenda. And so I think that the Prime Minister has a window here in the next 6 months to be able to meaningfully address the issues that we've put on the table. And if he does, I think we can have a really constructive conversation about making the entire country an economic powerhouse, finding new markets, tearing down internal trade barriers. That's what I'm going to be focused on in the next 6 months.
But her job is to make sure if there's a vote, it doesn't go to yes. That's clarity. And in my opinion, leadership. Subscribe if you believe in cool heads and honest conversations. Look, Jann brought up the treatment of Indigenous people in Alberta. And you know what? Let's look at the facts, Jann. Chief Tony Alexis has said it very clearly. Treaty rights are binding. Alberta can't separate without us. Fair enough. The Assembly of First Nations backed that up by saying the following, and I quote, "Any separation effort without First Nations consent is unconstitutional." And the government of Alberta made a change to Bill 54 saying, no referendum question can threaten existing treaty rights. They adjusted the bill. Jann, that matters. Here's what we need to know right now. Less fire, more facts. Less demonizing, more listening. Whether you're a fed-up separatist or a passionate federalist, we need to stop treating each other like enemies. Premier said it best too, I believe. We have to turn down the heat. Jann Arden, you didn't do that. And neither are a lot of creators chasing views. If you want real talk from real people, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Let me end with a quote from Preston Manning. Closed door, top-down approaches don't lead to consensus. Look, Canada doesn't need more pressure from the top. It needs honesty from the ground up, the grassroots. That's what Unfiltered is all about. That's why we're here. Let's comment below. 1, did Jann Arden go too far this weekend? 2, are you nervous about what the Premier said and giving the federal government 6 months? Or do you feel heard in this separation debate? This Saturday, Unfiltered is going to be in Red Deer at the Republican Party of Alberta info session, getting interviews, filming, and showing you what the conversations look like on the ground from that event. Here's more details for that event in Red Deer. Make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. This country is at a crossroads, and we're not backing down. This is Unfiltered.